the streets, like a ghost, thick and suffocating, draping the city in an eerie silence. Dim streetlights flickered weakly against the dense mist, their glow struggling to penetrate the damp, cold air. The distant hum of traffic felt like a far-off memory, muffled and ghostly, barely reaching the narrow, twisting lanes of Whitechapel. Here, history's darkest memories still lingered, imprinted on the cobblestones like bloodstains in the past. It had been weeks since the first mutilated body turned up, the gruesome remains discovered just as autumn leaves began to fall. A grim echo of Jack the Ripper's old crimes. Panic swept through the city as newspapers reveled in the shock. Sensational headlines screamed about Ripper resurrected. Each report detailed the horrendous acts with morbid fascination. The public both horrified and enthralled by the specter of a killer haunting their streets once again. But Detective Spirit knew better. It wasn't just some lunatic copying old murders. She could feel it in the air, an unsettling energy that crackled like static electricity, tinged with darkness. As an alpha-familiar, she possessed a heightened intuition and connected to the arcane, allowing her to perceive the world differently. There was something ancient about this evil that whispered to her from the depth of time itself, calling to her through the veil of magic that pulsed beneath the surface of reality. Her wings spread wide, powerful and graceful, as she soared over the rooftops, surveying the city below. In her owl form, Spirit's senses were sharp. She could catch even the faintest scent of blood mingling with the cool autumn air. The metallic tang was sickening, sharp against her throat, and only deepened her resolve. She knew who was behind these killings. Blue Fury, a necromancer with a chaotic spirit, had returned, and he was playing a game, one designed specifically for her. As she glided through the mist, Spirit spotted Hanbury Street beneath her. Its narrow alleyway shrouded in darkness. She landed atop of a lamppost, her feathers glistening in the pale light as the fog curled around her like a lover's embrace. Her keen eyes locked onto the alley below, where a small crowd of police officers had gathered, their faces pale and drawn, some looking sickened at the sight they had encountered. The smell of death was unmistakable, overpowering, and Spirit felt a familiar knot of dread tightening in her stomach. It took every ounce of her will to not shift back into her owl form and take flight. Instead, she steadied herself, breathing deeply as she prepared to descend. She dropped from the lamppost with a soft swoop, shifting seamlessly into her humanoid form as her feet touched the ground. The alley was cordoned off with police tape, bright and exemplary, but no one dared to stop her. The officers had learned a long time ago to not question her methods, even if they didn't fully understand the detective who could transform into an owl. Her reputation preceded her, a mix of reverence and fear that hung in the air like the mist surrounding them. Spirit crouched beside the body, her gloved fingers hovering above the mangled flesh, heart racing as she took in the horrific scene. The victim, a young woman, laid sprawled on the cobblestones, lifeless eyes staring vacantly at the starless sky. Her throat had been slashed with brutal precision, and her abdomen mutilated, an unmistakable signature of the Ripper's work, yet marked by something far more sinister. But Spirit saw what others couldn't. This wasn't just a knife wound. There was dark magic here. Necromancy, which twisted the essence of life and death. The cold fingers of dread curled around her heart, tightening their grip. Her sharp eyes traced the faint lines of a ritual carved into the victim's skin, barely visible to the untrained eye. The lines formed strange symbols, arcane and unfamiliar, interwoven with blood pooling around the body. Blue Fury's calling card was a message meant for her alone, a tone that echoed with malicious glee. "He's getting bolder," she murmured, her voice tight with determination, cutting through the tension like a blade. "But I won't let him win, this time." As she rose to her feet, Spirit's heart thudded in her chest, each beat a reminder of urgency of her mission. She could feel the weight of darkness surrounding her, pressing down like a shroud. The sea held its breath, as if it too sensed the coming storm. But, even as she steeled herself, she knew the next move was hers. Blue Fury was waiting, lurking in the shadows, observing her every action, and she couldn't afford to falter. The game was afoot, and the stakes were higher than ever. She could almost hear his laugh, a haunting echo in the depths of her mind, urging her forward into the darkness he had crafted just for her. With relentless breath, Spirit turned from the grim scene. The alley was now a silent witness to the evil that had transpired, and the rising chill in the air pricked her skin. She took a moment to collect herself, inhaling the damp scent of London streets and the metallic tang of blood ignited her senses, sharpening her resolve. The whispers of magic around her surged with energy, the latent power urging her forward, reminding her that she was not alone in this fight. As she strode towards the mouth of the alley, she could feel the other officers' curious and wary eyes on her. They respected her instincts, but the fear that draped the city like a fog made them skittish. She glanced back at the scene, her mind racing with the implications of Blue Fury's message. Each murder wasn't a crime, it was a ritual, a declaration of war against her, a twisted game he played to assert his dominance in the darkness. "You'll not take another innocent," she whispered, the words stealing her heart as she stepped out of the misty street. The gas lamps flickered, their light barely cutting through the gloom, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out, yearning for her. She pushed the thoughts of the gruesome crime scene aside, focusing instead on the threads of magic she sensed weaving through the air. Blue Fury was clever, and she had no illusions about the danger he possessed. His necromancy was strong, a blend of cunning and chaos that made him unpredictable and unformidable. Her keen detective instincts kicked in as she went down the narrow streets. She needed to gather information and piece together the clues he had left in his wake. Spirit ducked into a nearby tavern. The warm light spilling out from the door, starkly contrasting with the cold darkness outside. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with the scent of ale and smoke, the chatter of patrons barely concealing the underlying tension that permeated the air. She approached the bar, her presence commanding as she called for a drink. The bartender, a burly man with a bushy beard, eyed her warily, recognition flickering across his face. "Not many come in here looking for answers about the Ripper," he said, pouring her a measure of gin. "Then you should know I'm not just anyone," Spirit replied, her voice steady and assertive. I'm here to help put a stop to this madness." He stared at her momentarily before nodding, his expression shifting to one of reluctant respect. "What's gonna run about you, detective? You've got a reputation, but this one, he's a different kind of monster." "I know," she said, sipping her drink, the burn warming her throat. "And I'm here to put him down before he strikes again. I need to know what you've heard. Anything about recent murders, about Blue Fury's movements." As Spirit leaned in, her voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you know the shift in the tavern's atmosphere?" The air grew heavier, laden with an unfamiliar presence. Her instincts flared, alerting her that someone else was in the room. Someone who didn't belong. Before she could pinpoint the source, the bartender's eyes flickered past her shoulder, his expression shifting from wary to apprehensive. You might want to keep your voice down, he murmured, his gaze fixed on a figure standing a few paces away. Curiosity piqued. Spirit turned her gaze, landing on the tall, striking individual. They stood with effortless grace and the aura of authority. Their features were distinctively elven, sharp cheekbones, piercing eyes, and an ethereal quality that made it seem like they were not entirely of this world. Cutting garments that blend elegance with practicality, they looked like they were ready for court and combat, the glint of something dangerous, lurking just beneath the surface. Who's that? Spirit asked, and a wariness creeping into her tone. Call them Callie, the bartender replied, his voice barely above a whisper. They've been lurking around Whitechapel and no one knows why. Spirit narrowed her eyes, instinctively sizing up this new player. And what's their angle? I don't know, he murmured, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting Callie to overhear. But the word on the street is that they're looking for someone too. Just tread carefully. They don't play nice. Before Spirit could respond, Callie's gaze locked onto hers. Their expression was inscrutable. It was as if they were weighing her worth, judging whether she was an ally or an adversary. With a confidence that barely any uncertainty, Callie stepped forward, their presence commanding attention. Detective Spirit, isn't it? They said, their voice smooth and melodic, with a slight edge of something ancient and powerful. I've heard whispers of your exploits. Exploits, Spirit replied, crossing her arms defensively. I prefer to call them investigations. Callie chuckled softly, an amused glint in their eyes. Call it what you will, but I find your tendency intriguing. Though I wonder, do you believe you can outsmart the one you seek? Blue Fury is a killer, Spirit shot back, her determination flaring. And I won't stop until I put him down for good. But the game is rarely so simple, Callie replied, tilting their heads slightly, a hint of mischief dancing in their eyes. You see, there are forces at play here that transcend mortals, especially one such as Blue Fury, who dances with shadows far beyond your understanding. Spirit felt a chill run down her spine, a mix of fear and intrigue. Then enlighten me, she challenged, her tone steady but cautious. What do you know about him? Callie stepped closer, their voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. There are whispers of his movements, patterns that suggest he is planning something more elaborate. He's not just killing, he's toying with us, drawing us in with each gruesome act. Spirit frowned, a sense of urgency washing over her. And why should I believe you? What do you gain from this? Just as a fickle thing, Callie replied with a sly smile, their eyes glinting with mischief. But, I assure you, I have reasons for wanting to see Blue Fury thwarted. Let's say our interests align. At least for now. As they stared down, the air crackled with tension, each assessing the other's resolve. Spirit was torn. Something was unnerving about Callie, an undercurrent of danger that both intrigued and unsettled her. What's your stake in all of this? She asked, her tone steady but cautious. I don't know you, and I'm not one to trust easily. Callie's expression shifted, their voice dropping more to a serious tone. Callie's expression shifted, their voice dropping to a more serious tone. Trust is a luxury I cannot afford, but, mark my words, Blue Fury possesses a threat not just to you and your city, but to realms beyond. Should he succeed in his machinations, we could all be drawn into a darkness that none of us could escape. Spirit considered this, feeling the weight of their words settle in the pit of her stomach as a truth to Kelly's assertion. A looming dread that was something far greater was at stake. Very well, she finally said, a steely determination in her voice. But if we are to work together, I need information. Everything you know about Blue Fury. No more games. Kelly smiled, her expression ignited. Consider it a beginning of sorts. But tread carefully, detective. In this game of shadows, allegiances shift like the fog outside. I won't be the only one hunting him. And trust me, you do not want to be caught in the crossfire. With that, they stepped back, leaving Spirit with wariness and intrigue, as she contemplated the implications of Kelly's presence. The atmosphere in the tavern seemed to thicken with secrets. She turned to the bartender, her resolve hardening. You want to keep an eye on them, she said. If they're after Blue Fury, they could be as dangerous as he is. The bartender nodded, his expression grave. I'll keep my ears open, but you be careful out there, Spirit. The city is not what it used to be, and neither are the monsters. As she exited the tavern, the fog enveloped her once more. The stakes had just risen, and she was now intertwined in a web far more complex than she had anticipated. With Blue Fury's shadow looming ever closer, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a darker chapter in this city's long history of terror. The streets of Whitechapel twisted beneath the fog, each corner a shadowy invitation to danger. Spirit moved swiftly through the alleyways, her thoughts a maelstrom. Kelly's cryptic warnings echoed in her mind, filling her with unease. She didn't trust them yet, but something about their presence had unsettled her. Whoever Kelly was, they weren't lying about Blue Fury. The bodies were piling up, each more gruesome than the last, and now this mysterious figure had entered the game, claiming to have the same goal as her, but their reasons were unclear, and that made them a threat. For she knew Kelly might be using Blue Fury as bait to further their dark ambitions. Spirit turned down a narrow lane, her boots echoing against the cobblestones. The chill in the air seeped through her coat, though the cold didn't bother her much. The city felt different tonight, alive, in a way she hadn't sensed before. Something about this case, this killer, stirred the old magic within her. She couldn't explain it, but she knew this was bigger than anything she faced before. She reached the abandoned warehouse district near the Thames, where Blue Fury's van had last pointed. Spirit scanned the area, her instincts urging her to stay alert. If he was planning something big, this is where it would start. Before shifting into her owl form, she paused. The eerie stillness of the riverbank was interrupted by the faintest sound. A footstep behind her. I thought we would be seeing each other again. Kelly's voice cut through the mist, as smooth and calculated as ever. Spirit spun around, her hand instinctively resting on her knife. I don't recall inviting you. Kelly smirked, stepping into view from the shadows. The elven features sharp in the dim light. You didn't, but we both know I wouldn't leave you alone in a place like this. That tone was light, but there was an edge of superiority, as if they were used to being in control of situations like this. What do you want? Spirit asked, her eyes narrowing. You're not just here for idle conversation. Kelly's expression turned serious, their piercing gaze locking onto hers. You're right. I'm here because I'm tired of dancing around the truth. They took a step closer, and for the first time, Spirit saw a flicker of something raw in their eyes, something that might have been vulnerability or desperation. Blue Fury isn't your ordinary monster. He's playing with magic that goes deeper than you realize. And you know all about that, don't you? Spirit challenged. Enough with the games, Callie. What are you after? Callie's lips turned into a wry smile. You think I'm after him for personal gain, right? Then I'm using this as a chance for power? Aren't you? Spirit's voice was steady, but inside her pulse raced. She didn't like not knowing where she stood, and Callie's mysterious aura kept her off balance. I have no interest in Blue Fury's madness, Callie replied, their voice cool. My concern is the balance of power, and if he continues down this path, he'll upset more than just your quaint little city. Balance of power, Spirit repeated, skepticism lacing her tone. And you just happen to be the one to restore it, I suppose. Perhaps, Kelly said, her eyes flashing. Or maybe I just don't want to see the world plunge into chaos because a psychopath thought it'd be fun to play God. Spirit folded her arms, still uncertain if she would trust a word out of Kelly's mouth. Let's say I believe you. How do you know so much about him? For a moment, Callie hesitated. It was brief, but Spirit caught it, a flicker of something guarded. I've had deals with his kind before, they admitted, their voice a little quieter now. Blue Fury. He's not the first to attempt something like this. And if he is using the same kind of dark magic, it won't be long before things spiral out of control. And what happens then? Spirit asked, her voice growing more urgent. What exactly is he planning? Kelly tilted their head, a dark smile playing on their lips. That's the real question, isn't it? What drives a man like Blue Fury to such extremes? Their eyes glowed. Their eyes seemed to glow with an otherworldly light, a reflection of the depth of their knowledge, or perhaps their involvement. I don't think he simply is trying to kill. He's experimenting, testing boundaries. He wants to see how far he can push it before the very fabric of reality bends to his will. Spirit's heart pounded in her chest. This is worse than she had imagined. So how do we stop him? Kelly smiled, but it didn't reach their eyes. That depends. Are you willing to get your hands dirty? Spirit felt a chill, not from the idea, but from the implication of Kelly's words. If you're suggesting that I cross lines... Lines? Kelly interrupted, stepping closer. There are no lines in this game, Spirit. Not with someone like him. He's not playing by any rules. And if you desire to stop him, you should be ready to do what's necessary. And what's necessary in your book? Spirit asked, as if she feared she already knew the answer. Kelly's eyes hardened, their expression becoming unreadable once again. Whatever it takes. The word hung between them like a challenge. Spirit knew she was standing at a crossroad. The words hung between them like a challenge. Spirit knew she was standing at a crossroads. Trusting Callie meant stepping into a world of uncertainty, where mortal boundaries blurred. But Blue Fury was out there, growing more powerful with each kill. And what if Callie said was true? Then the clock was ticking. But she couldn't trust someone whose motives were still so unclear. As if reading her thoughts, Callie moved back, their hands loosely at their sides. You don't have to decide now, detective. But sooner or later, you will have to choose. And when that time comes, remember that monsters like Blue Fury don't fall by playing nice. With that, they turned and melted into the shadows, leaving Spirit alone by the water's edge, the fog swirling around her like a living thing. She stood there for a long moment, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She hated collaborating with someone like Callie, who appeared to do anything for their plan. But what if they were right? What if Blue Fury's plan was bigger than she could handle alone? The night pressed in, the distant sounds of the city muted by the heavy mist. Spirit shifted into her owl form and soared into the air, her wings slicing through the fog as she rose above. From up here, London looked quiet, almost peaceful. But she knew better. Somewhere down there, Blue Fury was preparing his next move. And the bodies would keep piling up unless she found a way to stop him. But as she flew, her mind kept shifting to Callie's words. Are you willing to get your hands dirty? She had always fought for justice, for what was right. Yet, presently, with a foe who twisted reality itself, the lines between good and bad appeared to be breaking down before her eyes. Spirit's sharp eyes scanned the streets below, but her thoughts remained clouded. If she wanted to win this fight, she might have to cross the line she never thought she would. And that, more than anything, terrified her. The hunt was far from over, and with each passing moment, the game grew deadlier. Spirit glided through the cold night air, her heart heavy with uncertainty. The familiar streets of London spread beneath her, a patchwork of light and shadow, history and blood. Each flickering street lamp illuminated ghosts of the past, reminders of the victims that Blue Fury had claimed. The weight of their lost lives pressed on her like the fog that enveloped the city. Am I willing to get my hands dirty? The question echoed relentlessly in her mind. She battled against people who took advantage of sorcery, the individuals who twisted it for their gain. But now, she faced a foe who did just that. Someone who reveled in chaos, someone whose very existence challenged the laws she swore to uphold. As she landed softly on the ledge of a derelict building, she shifted back into a human form. Her senses still heightened from her flight. The air smelled faintly of rain, and something darker, a metallic scent that sent shivers down her spine. She could feel the pulse of magic in the air, an undercurrent of the energy that whispered of impending violence. From her vantage point, she could see the river glimmering in the moonlight, and beyond it, the silhouette of the warehouse district. Blue Fury had to be close, preparing for his next move, and she had to find him before dawn toward another victim. Her instincts kicked in, propelling her forward. She traveled through the thin roads, her psyche dashing with contemplations of Callie, as it is correlation that was shaping. Something about their presence gnawed at her. An air of authority mixed with unsettling unpredictability. She needed to tread carefully. She didn't know if they were friend or foe. As she got closer to the warehouses, the thicker the fog became, swirling around her like a living entity. She ducked into an alley, her senses on high alert. Suddenly, a rustling from the shadows made her freeze. "Detective Spirit!" A voice called, low and taunting. Her heart raced as she spun around to face the sound. Blue Fury stood before her, emerging from the shadows with an almost predatory grace. His eyes glinted with a cruel light, portraying the chaos he embraced. "I have been waiting for you." "Blue Fury," she replied, forcing her voice to remain steady, masking her fear beneath the facade of determination. "You've gone too far. The bodies you're leaving behind." "Bodies?" He interrupted with a laugh, a sound both unsettling and delightful. "They're not just bodies, Spirit. They're a message. Art. I'm creating a masterpiece that will be remembered through the ages." He stepped closer, his expression a mix of mockery and genuine intrigue. "And you, my dear detective, are my greatest admirer. Is that what you think this is? Art?" Spirit spat, anger flaring within her. "You're nothing but a monster, tearing people's lives apart for your amusement." He chuckled again, the sound sending chills down her spine. "You misunderstand me. This is about power, and control, something you wouldn't understand. But I sense you're curious. You've felt it, haven't you? The pull of darkness, the thrill of bending the rules. No, she asserted, her voice steady. I'm here to stop you, not to indulge in your madness. His gaze sharpened, and for a moment, the playful facade slipped. You think you can stop me? You, with your self-righteous ideals. You're a fool to think you can take on something like me without getting your hands dirty. A flicker of doubt nodded her. Was he right? She had always prided herself on moral compass, but the chaos surrounding her pushed her to reconsider her principles. Every time you take a life, you're one step closer to losing your humanity, Spirit said, determination bubbling to the surface. And I won't let that happen. I'll stop you, even if I have to walk through the darkness myself. Blue Fury's smile twisted into something far darker, more dangerous. A gleam in his eyes shifted from mockery to malice, and Spirit's muscles tensed as if she sensed the change. His playful facade, the veneer of charm crumbled to reveal something far more sinister beneath. You think you can resist the pull of darkness, detective? Blue Fury's voice was a low snarl now, his words edged with menace. You don't understand how deep this goes, how far I'm willing to take it. But you will. In a blur of a moment, he lunged. Spirit barely had time to react before his blade was slicing through the air, aimed straight at her throat. Instinctively, she threw herself backwards, her hand moving to draw her weapon. But it was faster than she anticipated. The blade grazed her arm, a searing pain shooting through her as blood soaked her sleeve. She gritted her teeth, ignoring the pain, and swung back. But Blue Fury was already gone, slipping into the shadows like a wraith. His laughter echoed in the alley, mocking her. Come on, Spirit, he taunted from the darkness, his voice circling her like a predator stalking its prey. Where's that fire? Where's that fight? You can't win if you're reluctant to do what it takes. She spun around, her eyes scanning the darkness, her heart pounding. The fog thickened around her, twisting her vision, and she cursed under her breath. He was toying with her. He could strike at any moment, and she wouldn't see him coming until it was too late. You can't run forever, she shouted, her voice steady despite the panic rising in her chest. She refused to let him see her fear. Oh, I'm not running, Blue Fury whispered directly in her ear, and she whirled just in time to see the flash of his blade again. This time, she wasn't quick enough. The blade plunged into her side, the shock of it knocking the breath from her lungs. Spirit gasped, collapsing to one knee as the pain bloomed through her body, hot and overwhelming. Blue Fury stood over her, his grin wide in triumph. I told you, Spirit, he said softly, crouching down to her level. You're not ready to face someone like me. Not when you're gripping those little beliefs of yours. His hand tightened around the blade's handle, twisting it slightly, and Spirit let out a sharp cry of pain. I wonder, he continued, almost conversationally, how long will it take to realize that you're just like me? You'll break, eventually. Everyone does. Spirit's vision swarmed, the edges of her world growing blurry, as blood dripped down her side, pulling beneath her. She could feel the darkness closing in, the suffocating weight of it pressing down on her. And just then, just as she thought it was over, and then, just as she thought it was over, the air shifted. A low grumble, a low growl rumbled from the shadows, and in a blink, Blue Fury was knocked off his feet by a blur of motion. Spirit blinked, disoriented, trying to decode what just happened. Callie stood over Blue Fury now, their eyes gleaming in the faint of the street lamp. Their expression unreadable. They moved with an elegance that belied the violence that they had just unleashed, standing tall and composed, as though nothing had happened. For the first time since Spirit had encountered him, Blue Fury appeared taken aback. Callie! Spirit rasped, struggling to get to her feet despite the pain. What? Stay down, detective, Callie said, their voice cool and almost bored. This isn't your fight anymore. Blue Fury's gaze flickered between them. His mouth curling Blue Fury's gaze flickered between them. His mouth curling into a sniff. Ah, so you finally decided to join the fun. And here I thought you preferred to stay in the shadows. Callie tilted their head, their expression calm, though their eyes flickered with something dangerous. Your games are tiresome, Fury, and I'm afraid your performance tonight has ended. Blue Fury wiped the blood from his lip, chuckling darkly. Oh, I'm just getting started. And as for you, he gestured lazily to Spirit, who was still clutching her side. Well, it seems like you could use a little fixing up. Shame, we couldn't finish our conversation. Spirit's vision blurred again, as her knees buckled, the blood loss catching up to her. But just before she collapsed, he saw Callie move, swift and precise. They swung their axe to Blue Fury, but he was too quick, bashing into the mist before the blade could find its mark. Another time, perhaps? Blue Fury's voice echoed faintly as he disappeared into the night, his laughter lingering like a haunting melody. Callie didn't bother giving chase. They stood there, watching the fog swallow him whole, before turning their attention to Spirit, slumped against the wall, her breathing shallow. Why did you? Spirit coughed, wincing in pain as pain tore through her. Why did you save me? Callie crouched down beside her, their gaze steady but unreadable. I didn't save you because I wanted to, they said, their voice cold. You're useful to me, detective. And I can't let you die. Just yet. Not until I've gotten what I need from you. Spirit frowned, confusion clouding her thoughts. What do you want? Callie didn't answer immediately. Instead, they reached into their coat and produced a small vial. Filled with shimmering liquid. Without a word, they poured it over her wound, and instantly the pain began to fade as the magic worked its way through her body, knitting the torn flesh back together. You'll live, they said flatly, standing up again. For now. Spirit struggled to her feet, her mind spinning from the injury in Callie's words. What's your game? She demanded, her voice hoarse. Why are you involved in this? What's your stake in all of this? Callie smiled faintly, but didn't reach their eyes. You don't need to know that, detective. Not yet. They turned away, their form disappearing into the fog. Just remember this. I saved your life tonight. And one day, I'll come to collect on that debt. Spirit watched as Callie vanished, her mind whirling with questions. Blue Fury was still out there, plotting his next move. And now, Callie entered the fray with their mysterious agenda. One thing was clear. The game had changed, and Spirit wasn't sure whose side anyone was on anymore. Not even her own. A week had passed since Spirit's brutal encounter with Blue Fury, and London had only grown darker. The fog, once a quiet shroud over the city, now seemed thicker, heavier, an omen that clung to the streets like death. The press had labeled it The week of the rising dead. A sentimentalist term for something quickly becoming a terrifying reality. Twice as many bodies had appeared, not just victims of the murder, but corpses that should have remained 6 feet under. The walking dead roamed the alleys, pale, decayed, some still wearing tattered clothes they were buried in. They moved with jerky, unnatural motions, as if dragged by an unseen power from beyond. People whispered of curses, of necromancy more sinister than anything they'd ever imagined. London had descended into chaos, and the police were at a complete loss. But Spirit, she was barely holding it together. Kelly's words haunted her, echoing like a relentless drumbeat. Are you willing to get your hands dirty? That single question had wormed into her thoughts, making her question everything, with the dead rising just as felt increasingly abstract, more like a fantasy than a goal. All her life she had relied on a moral compass, but now the landscape around her appeared to be changing, merging the concepts of right and whatever was imperative. Blue Fury had gone silent. Since that night, there had been no sign of him. No taunting letters, no grisly killings. As if the chaos he had unleashed had become self-sustaining, feeding off the dread in the city and Callie, as though they never existed. They evaporated into the haze, leaving Spirit with only questions and an understanding feeling of unease. Spirit found herself once again in the heart of Whitechapel, where the fog was the thickest and the air smelt of damp earth and decay. She had been patrolling these streets for days, owl forms soaring silently above the city. But now, she walked in her human guise. She preferred it this way tonight. She needed to feel the ground beneath her feet, the weight of her body to anchor her, to remind herself that she was still here, still fighting, despite everything. Her mind raced with the recent reports. Corpses rising from graves was no mere coincidence, nor a random spell gone awry. This was deliberate, controlled, and that could only mean one thing. Blue Fury was preparing for something much worse. The night's cold nipped at her skin, but for the eerie stillness set her on edge. Even living seemed to avoid these spots now, as though they could sense the wrongness in the air. She had a faint scraping sound, like claws against stone, and turned sharply down the alley. A figure stumbled into view, a corpse, eyes hollow, skin gray and cracked. It moved towards her slowly, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. Spirit's breath caught. The body, she recognized it. It was a man she had seen buried just days ago. He had been one of Blue Fury's earlier victims. His throat slit just like the others, yet he was moving, twitching, a grotesque puppet in someone else's game. "Stop," she said, though she knew it was futile. "You don't belong here." The corpse continued its advance, its lifeless eyes locked on her. With a wave of her hand, Spirit caught on her magic, drawing a shimmering barrier between herself and the shambling figure. The corpse hit the barrier with a soft thud, unable to proceed. Its decayed hands clawing at the invisible wall, he stepped closer, inspecting the corpse with a sense of disgust and dread. There was no ordinary necromancy. There was precision to it, a cruel intention. She leaned in, narrowing her eyes. When she saw it, a faint mark, a sigil, etched into the skin of the corpse's neck. She recognized it immediately. Blue Fury's handiwork. But this time, there was an additional marking intertwined with his. A twist in the magic she hadn't seen before. It was growing stronger, darker. Spirit pulled back, letting the barrier drop. The corpse collapsed in a heap as the magic holding it together fizzled out. She straightened up, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. He wasn't just fighting Blue Fury now. Something, or someone, else was involved. Spirits thought returned to Callie as she moved away from the scene. Their disappearance gnawed at her. Why had they helped her? What was that angle? What did they want from me? She still sensed the intensity of Callie's gaze that night. She could still sense the intensity of Callie's gaze from that night, how they had scrutinized her, weighing her value and determining if she deserved salvation. And what had they said? You're useful to me, detective. Useful. Like a tool. Her fist clenched at the memory. She despised the feeling of being manipulated, yet she couldn't ignore the trembling reality. Callie still had plans. For her. Their words had been a chilling promise that they would return to collect that debt. Are you willing to get your hands dirty? It was no longer a question. It was a challenge, and Spirit didn't know if she was ready to answer it. She headed to her office, hoping to find some respite, some clarity amidst the madness. But, as she approached the entrance, a tall, slender figure detached itself from the shadows, a figure with an air of elegance and danger. Callie. Their presence was unsilent as ever, but there was no cold smirk or biting remark this time. They remained still, observing her, with eyes that sparkled in the faint glow. I knew your job began, Spirit said, even her voice steady despite the unease in her gut. You have a way of appearing when things get worse. Callie's lips curled into a faint smile. It's almost like I have an impeccable timing, right? What do you want, Callie? Callie's lips curled into a knowing smile, their eyes gleaming with a dangerous mix of amusement and challenge. Oh? You haven't heard, have you? Spirit's gaze narrowed. Heard what? Callie leaned in slightly, their presence as unnerving as ever. Voice low, laced with a playful mask. It's nearly Halloween. All the children will be out soon, dressed as little monsters, collecting sweets. No line between the spiritual world and this one. It bends, you see. They may be able to cross. Spirit's stomach challenged at the implication, but Callie continued, their voice soft, silken, and chilling. All right. And dark magic gets stronger, much stronger. If you want to stop him, if you want to stop Blue Fury, you don't have long, detective. You can feel it, can't you? The rising power, the lingering death in the air. Spirit clenched her fists, fighting the growing dread inside her. She had felt the magic building. The city seemed to pulse with it. Halloween was just days away, and she knew it would bring chaos. The dead would walk freer, the veil thin, and Blue Fury would grow more powerful. Callie's eyes gleamed with a hint of wickedness. How many more lives are you going to let die before you stop him? Her jaw tightened, her mind racing. She hated how easily Callie seemed to get under her skin, how they always knew exactly what to say to make her question herself. I know the next 7 target, if that helps you. Callie practically sang, stepping even closer, her presence looming over her like a shadow. But there's a price for information, of course. There's always a price. Spirit glared at them. What kind of price? Callie leaned in, their voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, laced with a silky charm that made Spirit's skin crawl. Oh! That's straightforward. All you need to do is share a fragment of your power. Some of your magic, I can't specify the exact amount, but enough to guarantee that I can summon it when necessary. Spirit felt a chill run down his spine. You want my magic, just to know who Blue Fury's next victim is. Callie straightened. Their expression shifted to one of mock innocence. It's not just about the victim, darling. It's about the balance of power in this city. I could provide you with the strength you need to confront him. But first, I need assurance that I can rely on you. Rely on me? Spirit echoed incredulously. You're the last person I would ever trust. Ah, but you've gotten it wrong, Spirit. You and I are in a parallel situation. Callie replied smoothly, glancing around to ensure no one was eavesdropping. We're both playing a dangerous game, but I'm the only one with insight to help you navigate it. The determination that had buoyed Spirit began to waver. She was desperate for information, for a way to stop Blue Fury before Halloween arrived. What if I refuse? She challenged, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. Callie's smile faded slightly, replaced by a calculating expression. Then I'll turn and leave you behind in the shadows. Bodies will pile up, chaos will reign, and you'll be powerless to stop it. I'm sure the city will mourn your failure. Your threats don't scare me. Spirit shot back, but she could feel the weight of her uncertainty pressing down on her. Callie's expression softened momentarily, a flicker of something resembling empathy shining through. This isn't just a game for you, is it? You care about her lives at stake, but tell me, how far are you willing to go to save them? Spirit's heart raced, her pulse echoing the turmoil inside her. She'd always prided herself on her moral compass, but stakes were rising faster than she could keep up. I'll do whatever it takes to stop him, even if it means crossing the lines I never thought I would. Callie's smile returned, broader now, like a cat who'd cornered its prey. That's the spirit. Then we have a deal. Just a small price of your power, and I'll tell you who he's targeting next. It's a small price to pay for a chance to save lives. With a heavy heart, Spirit felt her resolve crumbling. The urge to protect the innocent was overwhelming, a primal instinct that drove her towards the precipice of danger. But Callie's presence loomed large. Their intentions yelled in shadows, and she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she was walking into a trap. Fine, she said, forcing the words out through gritted teeth. I'll do it. But you better not betray me, Callie. If I find out this was a trick... Callie raised her hands in mock surrender, a playful glint in their eyes. Oh, Spirit, you wound me. I'm a creature of my word. You'll have your information, and then we'll see how far you're willing to go. Now tell me, Spirit pressed, steeling herself for what would come. Who's the next target? Callie leaned back, their expression lost a playful mystery. Now we get to the fun part. Blue Fury has a particular taste, you see. His next victim is someone he deems weak, vulnerable, a lost soul he can twist to his will. Spirit's heart raced. Who is it? Callie tilted their head slightly, a glint of mischief dancing in their eyes. The air buzzed with excitement, yet the tension was tinged with a shadowy presence that sent a chill racing down Spirit's spine. Spirit's heart raced, the words she feared hanging in the air between them. Who is it? She demanded, her voice steadier than she felt, though an ominous knot twisted in her stomach. Callie stood up straighter, the playful facade slipping away as they closed their eyes, a small, almost sinister smile curling at the corners of their lips. It was a show, a game, and Spirit was the unwilling player. The one you care about the most, they replied, their voice low and teasing, as if relishing in the suspense they created. Spirit's breath hitched. What do you mean? Callie opened one emerald green eye, his intensity locking onto hers. Your best friend. She is Blue Fury's next target. Panic surged through Spirit, drowning her previous resolve. No, you're lying. The words came out in a rush, desperation creeping into her voice. You can't know that. Oh, well I do, Callie said, the tone dripping with satisfaction. Blue Fury thrives on connection, on bonds, and your bond is his greatest opportunity. You'll relish in the torment of choosing someone close to you. Someone you would do anything to protect. You're manipulating me, Spirit accused, anger rising within her. You're toying with my emotions. Callie merely shrugged, their expression enigmatic. Isn't that the nature of power? We're pawns in someone's game. I'm just offering you a chance to change the outcome, to save her before it's too late. Why would you care about saving anyone? Spirit challenged, narrowing her eyes. You have your agenda. Perhaps, Kelly replied, the voice smooth as silk. But I have no interest in seeing someone like you fail. You're far too entertaining for that. And besides, the distraction of your best friend could serve my purposes too. But I'd rather you not take that path. Frustration boiled within Spirit as she grappled at the truth behind Callie's words. What do I need to do? Callie stepped back, their demeanor shifting to one of calculated elegance. You need to act quickly. Blue Fury is cunning. He'll not wait too long before he strikes. He's already set his plan into motion. You only have hours. Perhaps less. Where is she? Spirit demanded, her mind racing. What can you tell me? Callie chuckled softly, the sound both alluring and chilling. She's always wandering through the city, looking for solace in places where shadows mingle with the light. If you hurry, you might find her at the old park near the market. How often lost in the night's chaos? With a mixture of dread and urgency, Spirit's thoughts raced. I need more than that. What does he want from her? Kelly merely shrugged, their expression inscrutable. With a flick of their wrist, a book materialized in the air before them, appearing like a fragment of the twilight sky. The cover shimmered with deep blues and purples, flecked with stars that seemed to twinkle and dance. Golden text swirled across the surface, though Spirit couldn't decipher the language. The only legible words were an elegant cursive at the bottom. Callie Wolf. Callie opened the book, flipping through its pages with nonchalance. The pages were filled with intricate illustrations and text that writhed and twisted, deferring her attempts to make sense of them. Like I said before, there's a price for information, they mused, their eyes scanning the contents. But I'm afraid I know your answer. It's a price you physically cannot pay. Spirit felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What do you mean? What's that supposed to mean? Callie's gaze remained fixed on the pages, a playful smirk on her lips. I'm afraid I cannot tell you what he wants from your dear friend. Perhaps you shouldn't be so easily fooled by kittens. The words dripped with mocking condescension, and Spirit's frustration fled. Stop playing games, Callie! My friend's life is at stake! Callie finally looked up. Their expression shifted to one of cold amusement. You should know by now that the world is filled with games, dear detective. And the players are not always what they seem. They closed the book with a snap. The shimmer faded into nothingness. You might want to consider your next moves carefully. You're walking a fine line. The consequences of stepping off could be dire. Spirit's resolve hardened in the face of Callie's riddles. If you think I'm going to back down just because you won't give me a straight answer, you're mistaken. Oh, I don't doubt your determination, Callie replied, that voice almost a whisper, silky and dangerous. But remember, the deeper you dig, the more likely you'll unearth things that are better left buried. Are you ready to face what you might find? Spirit clenched her jaw, frustration mingling with determination. I've faced darkness before, and I will again if it means saving her. Callie leaned closer, their breath brushing against Spirit's ear. Then perhaps you're braver than I thought. But bravery alone won't save you. Just remember, it's not only Blue Fury who plays with the dead. You might find the ones who rise again are more than mere shadows. With that, they stepped back, a calculated distance falling between them. The clock's ticking, Spirit. You should hurry to find her. And don't be surprised if the answers you seek come at a higher cost than you expect. With a quick movement, Callie spun around, and that figure ignited in green flames that flickered with gold sparkles, creating a spectacle that was both enchanting and fearsome. To Spirit, it seemed like nothing more than a flourish, a dramatic exit that underscored Callie's otherworldly nature. Yet beneath that spectacle lurked an unsettling reminder of the forces they manipulated, and she could feel the heat of their presence. As they vanished, Spirit fell momentarily dazed when the flames extinguished, replaced by the coolness of the night air. She shook off the lingering awe, her focus sharpening. There was no time to waste. Her life's friends hung in the balance. Spirit took off, soaring through the labyrinth of London's darkened streets, her mind churning with the implications of Kelly's warning. They had mentioned rising shadows, hinting at a power beyond Blue Fury's chaotic malice. What did it mean for the dead to walk again? Was Kelly's cryptic warning just another game? Or was it a thread lurking in the city's haunted corners? The park loomed ahead, shrouded in mist and mystery. It had always been a place of solace for a friend, a refuge from the chaos of the outside world. But tonight, it felt like a trap. The shadows stretching unnaturally as if anticipating her arrival. Focus, Spirit, she whispered, her mind returning to the task. She landed gracefully on a nearby rooftop, surveying the dark expanse below. The park was eerily quiet, the usual rustle of leaves replaced by oppressive stillness that made her skin crawl. Taking a deep breath, Spirit could feel a weight of exhaustion clinging to her like a shroud. Sleep had eluded her since the first bodies appeared, and the nightmares that followed were relentless. She knew the tension in her shoulders, the fatigue behind her eyes, but she couldn't afford to let it distract her. Not now. As she glided down from the rooftop, her senses heightened. Spirit was acutely aware of the lingering chill in the air. It seemed to wrap around her like tendrils, whispering secrets of the park's dark past. The moon shone weakly through the mist, casting an ethereal glow on the path ahead. Approaching the entrance, she paused momentarily, straining to hear any sounds that might indicate Laverin's presence. Just then, a flicker of green flames danced at the edge of her vision, shimmering like an afterimage. For a brief second, she thought she saw Callie's figure, adorned in golden sparkles. But it faded almost as quickly as it appeared, leaving her questioning whether or not it had been real or simply a trick of her mind. Exhaustion, she decided, was playing tricks on her. Get a grip, Spirit! She muttered, shaking her head, trying to clear her thoughts. She moved deeper into the park, the path lined with ancient trees that towered above, the branches clawing at the sky like skeletal hands. Laverin! She called, her voice breaking in the suffocating silence. Are you here? It's me! No answer came, only a rustling of leaves in the wind. Panic clawed at her insides, urging her to move faster. She could feel the remnants of Callie's cryptic warnings echoing in her mind, taunting her with knowledge the time was running out. With each step she took, Spirit's heart pounded at the idea of Lavin being in peril. She remembered how often they had shared this park, laughing and talking late into the evening. The world outside fading away, but tonight, the park felt like a different entity. Dark and predatory. Then she turned a corner. A flash of movement caught her eye, a figure stumbling amidst the thick fog, heart loved with hope. Lavin! Spirit shouted again, rushing towards the silhouette. As she drew closer, relief flooded her at seeing her friend's familiar face, a bit pale and streaked with dirt. Spirit! Lavin gasped, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. Thank goodness! What happened? Spirit asked, concerned about lacing her voice. She could see Lavin was shaken, her usually bright eyes clouded with distress. I don't know, Lavin stammered, glancing over her shoulder, as if she was expecting shadows to creep up behind her. I was just walking. And then I heard something. It felt like someone was calling me, but I couldn't see who it was. It was like the air around me was alive, trying to pull me in. Spirit stepped closer, reaching to clasp Lauren's shoulder reassuringly. You're safe now. We need to leave. This place isn't right tonight. Before Lauren could respond, the air around them shifted, charged with ominous energy. A distant laugh, echo rippled through the fog, chilling Spirit to the bone. Do you hear that? Spirit whispered, her senses on high alert. Lauren nodded, her expression filled with dread. What is it? Something's not right, Spirit replied, scanning the shadows that seemed to writhe at the edges of her vision. We need to... Suddenly, the laughter morphed into a haunting wail, rising and falling like a ghostly choir. Spirit's instincts kicked in. Run! She shouted, grabbing Lauren's hand as they bolted down the path, hearts pounding in sync. As they raced deeper into the park, the shadows began to swirl around them, tendrils reaching out as if desperate to catch them. Spirit could feel the weight of the darkness pressing down, suffocating and relentless. Where do we go? Lauren shouted, panic creeping into her voice. Towards the exit! Just keep moving! Spirit urged, her mind racing. She couldn't shake the feeling they were being hunted, that something far more sinister was at play. The shadows shifted, coalescing into more defined forms. The spectres of the long dead, their faces twisted in anguish. They reached out, mouths opening in silent screams, trying to grasp at the warmth of the living. Spirit's heart raced as she recalled Kelly's warning about the dead rising. They're drawn to us! We have to break through! Just as they neared the gates, a figure stepped out from the depths of the shadows, blocking their path. Spirit skidded to a halt, her breath catching in her throat. Who are you? She demanded, summoning her courage to face the unknown. The figure chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. You think you can escape what you do not understand? It was a spectral entity, its form shifting and indistinct, but the malicious gleam in its voice was unmistakable. Spirit's instincts fled, warning her of the dangers that loomed. Get back! She shouted, pushing Lauren behind her. Protectively, she could feel the magic within her surging, ready to fight, but she knew she couldn't do it alone. Just then, the shadows twisted and thickened, coalescing into a more solid figure. Blue Fury emerged, his presence radiating a chilling aura that sent a wave of dread crashing over Spirit. The air turned heavy with spite, and his eyes glinted like well-sharpened knives in the dark. Well, he said, a twisted smile curling. What do we have here? The detective and a little pet wandering right into my trap. His voice dripped with mockery, each word cut through the tense atmosphere. I should have known you'd come running when your dear friend was in danger. How predictable! Spirit's heart raced as she squared her shoulders, ready to face him. Get away from her, Blue. This is between you and me. He laughed, a sound that echoed unnaturally through the park, resonating with the dark energy. Oh, but it's much more than that, isn't it? Lauren here is the last piece of the puzzle. The final sacrifice that will push you over the edge. He leaned closer, his gaze fixated on Spirit with predatory intensity. And I always get what I want when Kelly isn't around to meddle. Leave her out of this, Spirit demanded, her voice firm but her insides quaking with uncertainty. You'll never win. Blue Fury's expression darkened, his smile fading. You understand me, Spirit. Do you think your noble intentions will save you? You're standing at the principle. You're standing at the precipice, and I hold the strings. I've seen the darkness in you, and I know how easily you could let it take control. Lauren trembled behind Spirit, fear palpable in the air. Spirit, what do we do? She whispered, glancing between them. Just stay close to me, Spirit replied, keeping her eyes on Blue Fury. Just stay close to me, Spirit replied, keeping her eyes on Blue Fury. Determined not to let the menace in front of her see her fear. I won't let him hurt you. Blue Fury's eyes narrowed, a predatory glint sparkling in their depths. You're already losing, Detective. You can feel it, can't you? The weight of your morality pulling you down, the doubt gnawing at your resolve. What happens when I take it from you? What will you become when faced with that kind of loss? Spirit felt a flicker of fear cooling in her chest. The fear of losing Lavin was unbearable. I'll never give in to you, she declared, forcing her voice to stay steady despite the storm of emotions. Oh, I believe you, he replied, his voice smooth, almost soothing. But the question is, how far will you go to save her? What lines will you cross when faced with despair? At that moment, the shadows around Blue Fury seemed to pulse with a life of their own, ready to lash out and consume. Spirit could feel the dark magic swelling, wrapping around her like a noose. She was on the edge of the abyss, teetering dangerously close to a place she had fought so hard to avoid. Don't let him get to his head! Lavin urged, stepping slightly forward, her voice shaky, yet filled with a spark of defiance. We can't let him win! Spirit, you're stronger than this! Blue Fury's gaze flickered to Lavin. A glimmer of irritation passed over his face. Ah, how quaint! The little bird is trying to sing! But I don't need to do much to break your resolve. Just one swift move and your precious friend will become another victim in my collection. He paused, enjoying the tension building in the air. And then, we'll see just how far you're willing to go, Spirit. With a swift motion, he raised his hand, dark energy coiling around it, ready to unleash a torrent of venom. Spirit's heart raced, and she felt the magic within her responding instinctively, sparking into life as she prepared to counter his dark intent. No! He shouted, pouring her energy into a protective shield. A bright light erupted from outside of his outstretched hands, clashing against the shadows he summoned. The two forces illuminated the park in a blinding flash, but Spirit could feel the strain as Blue Fury pushed against her magic with an insatiable hunger. Find me if you must, but remember, each moment you delay is one moment I have to claim your friend. He sneered, his voice tainted with malice. The realization struck Spirit like a thunderbolt. She faltered, Lauren would pay the price. I won't let you have her! Spirit cried, focusing all of her energy on the barrier. Pushing back against the shadows that threatened to engulf them. But Blue Fury's dark laughter echoed, reverberating through the night air. You're stronger than you look, Spirit, but strength without resolve is merely a flicker of light in the dark. The air puffed with energy, and briefly, maybe, time itself had stopped. Spirit and Blue Fury stood at the epicenter of a storm, magic swirling around them like a storm. Determination etched in her features. Spirit poured every ounce of her power into the shimmering barrier between them and the encroaching darkness. I won't let you have her! She cried, her voice strong and defiant, each word laced with urgency. The shield glowed bright, pushing against the shadows that threatened to engulf them. Blue Fury's laughter echoed, a cold, mocking sound that sent chills down her spine. You're stronger than you look, Spirit, but strength without resolve is merely a flicker of light in the dark. His voice dripped with disdain, each syllable a reminder of the stakes. Just a flicker? Spirit spat, refusing to back down. I'll show you what this flicker can do. But, as the shadow surged forward, something in her focus wavered. Doubt seeped into her mind, and for a fleeting moment, she hesitated. What if I can't protect her? The thought flickered, unbidden, like a spectre hunting her resolve. In that instance, the darkness lunged, crushing against her barrier. Spirit's concentration faltered, and the surge of energy she directed faltered. The two forces collided with an explosive force, and the power within her erupted, pushing outward in a desperate, uncontrolled wave. Lavan! She screamed, trying to shield her friend from the backlash. But the energy surged out of her control, consuming everything in its path. Time stretched as she watched horrified, the aftermath of her reckless power. The light enveloped Lavan, who just stood behind her, eyes wide with fear. Spirit! She cried out, but her voice was drowned in the chaotic roar of energy. Then came the silence, a deafening stillness that hung heavy in the air. As the blinding light began to fade, Spirit's heart dropped. She turned, dread cooling around her gut. The park lay in ruins. Shadows burned, swirling like angry phantoms. But there, amidst the wreckage, was Arvin. No, Spirit whispered, stepping forward, the world around her moving slowly. No! 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 Arvin lay motionless on the ground, her form limp and lifeless. The vibrant spark that had always animated her friend had been snuffed out. The air thickened with suffocating grief as the weight of what she had done crashed down on Spirit like a tidal wave. No! She screamed again, collapsing beside Lavan, her hands shaking as they cradled her friend's face. I didn't mean to! I didn't! Blue Fury's laughter returned, echoing like a dark symphony through the park. How poetic! You fought so hard to save her, and yet you're the one who condemned her. Do you feel it? The weight of her life rests upon your shoulders. That is the price of your recklessness. Spirit's breath hitched, her heart fracturing at the sight before her. She could hardly comprehend what had happened. The shadows that had once threatened now felt like in the darkness within her, creeping into the corners of her soul. Get away from me! She screamed, turning to face Blue Fury. Fury and anguish twisting her features. This is your fault! You did this! Oh, but my dear detective, he taunted. You've given me exactly what I wanted. The sweet taste of despair is the most delicious of all. How will you ever recover from this loss? How will you ever fight back? His words cut deep, digging into the raw wound by her friend's death. Spirit felt a wave of fury rise within her, mingling with her grief ignited a fire she had never known. I will make you pay for this! He roared, channeling her rage. I will hunt you down! You will not get away with this! Oh, but I'm counting on it, Spirit. He replied, a wicked gleam in his eye. Your pain is the catalyst of my victory. Like all before you, you'll lose yourself in the darkness. You're already on the precipice and have taken the first step over the edge. The shadows around him surged, dark tendrils reaching the Spirit, but at that moment, something shifted within her. The grief, despair, the loss, all morphed into something else. A primal rage ignited, a desire for not just vengeance, but for justice. How twisted it might become. Spirit's heart hammered in her chest, the emotional storm swelling inside her, threatening to tear her apart. But it was no longer just grief or pain that fueled her. It was something far darker. something that surged from deep within her soul, her wings glowing faintly with supernatural energy, stretched wide as she steadied herself. The anger coursing through her veins sharpening her focus. Blue Fury, watching her with amusement, had no idea what was coming. The sick satisfaction on his face only fed her rage. He thought he had broken her, that she would crumble under the weight of her loss. But he had miscalculated. Spirit always fought for justice, for order. But now the lines between justice and revenge had blurred beyond recognition. I will never become like you, she growled through clenched teeth, even though she wasn't sure how true the words fell anymore. Blue Fury smirked, his eyes gleaming like coals in the night. Oh, but you already have, Detective. Can you feel it? The fire inside you. The thirst for retribution. It's only a matter of time before you accept it. I'm not afraid of the darkness, Spirit spat, her wings beating harder, stirring the air around them. But I will never let it control me like it controls you. You think you still have control? He asked, his voice dripping with mockery. Look at her! She gestured casually to Lyran's lifeless body. Look at what you've done. This is just the beginning. For a moment, her resolve wavered. Her eyes flickered, bringing back to Lyran's body crumpled on the cold ground. Her best friend, the person she had sworn to protect, who had been with her through thick and thin, was gone. And it was because of her. Spirit's breath caught in her throat, the crushing reality threatening to pull her under. No, she whispered. The word was barely audible at first. No. She stepped forward, her fist clenched tight, her wings shimmering with latent energy. Blue Fury tilted his head, his mocking smile never wavering. No! She repeated it, her voice growing stronger, her fury burning away the guilt that threatened to consume her. I won't let you win. Not like this. Spirit launched herself with a speed that surprised her. Blue Fury had barely time to react as she collided with him, knocking him back with the force of her attack. Her smile disappeared, replaced by a flash of genuine surprise. She felt the pulse of her magic surge through her, raw and untamed, fueling her every moment as she drove him farther back. But Blue Fury wasn't easily shaken. Recovering quick, he snarled and summoned the shadows around him, forming a barrier of darkness to push Spirit back. You're playing with the forces you don't understand. You're playing with forces you don't even understand, he spat, his voice no longer laced with amusement but with cold fury. Spirit gritted her teeth, the pressure of Blue Fury's barrier pressing against her like a suffocating weight. The raw energy she had just unleashed was still coursing through her, but now it felt chaotic, wild, just as dangerous as to her as it was to him. But she couldn't back down. Not now! Not with Lavin gone and Blue Fury looming like a twisted shadow of death. I understand enough, she shot back, standing herself against the force of his magic. You've taken everything from me, but won't win. A low, menacing chuckle escaped Blue Fury's lips. You're still clinging to that old, naive sense of justice, right? But let me clarify. You don't know what true power is. You can feel it, can't you? The darkness. It's calling you. The more you fight, the closer you come to becoming just like me. Spirit refused to let his words get under her skin, even though the darkness around her felt like it was trying to worm its way in. I'll never be like you, he hissed, pushing against his barrier with every ounce of strength she had left. The air crackled around her, a fierce mix of light and dark battling for dominance. Blue Fury's eyes narrowed as the shadows swirled, thickening around him. He seemed to have been waiting for something, for her to slip, to fall into the trap. He had been weaving all along, but she could also feel the urge to let go. succumb to the pure destructive power bubbling just below the surface. But instead of faltering, Spirit took a breath, her mind flashing back to Larvin, to the promise she had made herself not long ago. She wouldn't let him have the satisfaction of breaking her. Not like this. She flapped her wings, the glow of her magic cutting through the oppressive shadows. For a brief moment, Blue Fury's barrier wavered, and Spirit seized the opportunity, summoning every drop of power she could muster. With a fierce shout, she broke through, the force of her magic sounding into him, with a blast that shattered the night air. Blue Fury staggered, the smug grin wiped clean off his face, as he caught himself before falling. His eyes blazed with fury. As the darkness around him recoiled, he seemingly stunned by Spirit's sudden surge of strength. Impressive, he growled, his voice laced with venom. But strength without control is meaningless. The Spirit's chest heaved with exertion, but she didn't back down. How meaningless over becoming a monster like you. In a flash, Blue Fury's expression twisted into something far darker, his mouth curling into a snarl. Then you leave me no choice. Without warning, he dived forward, his form dissolving into a shadow as he moved faster than Spirit could react, just as he reappeared inches away, his hand reaching out like tendrils of magic curling around his fingers as he aimed for her heart. Spirit braced for the impact at that exact moment. The air shimmered, a strange distortion rippling between them. Before she could even process what was happening, a searing green flame shot through the darkness, summing into Blue Fury and knocking him off course. Callie. The deity materialized in front of Spirit, their form radiating with green and gold, but a calm, dangerous look was in their eyes. You seem to be forgetting something, Blue, they said coolly, their voice steady. You're not the only one who plays with shadows. Blue Fury snarled, his form flickering as he pulled himself together from the impact of Callie's flames. The darkness had once seemed unstoppable, rippled with unease as Callie's presence cast an unsettling light across the battlefield. Burning with fury, his eyes locked onto the deity, who now stood between him and Spirit. You're always interfering, he growled, the shadows around him swelling in response to his rage. You think you can stop me every time? And Callie tilted that head. Faint smile playing on their lips. Stop you? Oh, Blue, you misunderstand. I'm not trying to stop you. I'm there to remind you that the game isn't over yet. Blue Fury's expression darkened, his form coiling tighter with menace. She's broken now. Can't you see? She killed her friend. She's already mine. Britt's heart clenched at his words, the weight of her guilt and grief pressing down on her like a vice. Lyran's lifeless face flashed before her eyes, and for a brief moment, the rage she had been channeling faltered. She had killed her best friend, and Blue Fury was right. Some part of her had already crossed the line. But Kelly sensed the crack in Rose resolve, stepped closer to her. Their backs still facing hers, they addressed Blue Fury with an almost casual laugh. Is that what you think? Because she's hard and grieving, she belongs to you. They let a soft chuckle, shaking their head. You're as predictable as ever, Blue. Always underestimating the strength of the living. Kelly raised her hand, the air around them shimmering with energy, green flames dancing at their fingertips, casting an ethereal glow. But let me remind you of one thing. You're not the only one who feeds off pain. Blue's form tensed, the darkness writhing around him like a living entity. I don't need your lessons, Wolf. Callie's smile grew sharper, more dangerous. Oh, I think you do. In an instant, they flicked their wrist, and the flame shot forward again, faster this time. A streak of green light cutting through the shadows that Blue Fury had summoned. Blue Fury hissed in pain as the flame seared through him, dispersing some of the darkness that clung to him like a second skin. Enough! He snarled, retreating slowly as the shadows recoiled from the attack. Kelly turned their head towards Spirit, just enough for her to glimpse the enigmatic expression. You might want to stand back, Spirit. I wouldn't want you to get incinerated yet. Spirit blinked, still reeling from the emotional storm raging inside her. But she stepped back as instructed, watching the power play unfold before her. He had held effortlessly, trying to control the situation, and how easily they manipulated Blue Fury and her with their cryptic games. Don't you see? Blue Fury barked, his voice dripping with venom. You're delaying the inevitable. She will fall just like all the others. And when she does, you'll be able to protect her from what's coming. Kelly's green eyes gleamed dangerously. Maybe. Or maybe not. But that's not for you to decide. Kelly's gaze shifted back to Blue, a playful smirk on their lips. See, Blue? They taunted, their voice dripping with mockery. You're not as invincible as you think. A little confinement can do wonders. One's perspective. With a flick of their wrist, the shadows gathered around Blue surged back into the earth, binding him in a cocoon of shimmering light. The dark tendrils retreated, and he found himself immobilized, unable to summon his powers or escape the deity's grasp. His eyes widened in disbelief, a mixture of anger and fear flickering across his face. Kelly turned to face Spirit, the emerald eyes looking into hers with an intensity that made her heart race. Now that we have him where we want him, let's discuss your future. They summoned their book, its pages glowing like a starry night sky, the golden text shimmering as they flipped through its contents. You've had your use, Spirit, they said, their tone shifting to something more serious. He isn't your prisoner. He'll be spared. But I'll ensure he won't be causing havoc soon. Let's check in the box is going back in the box. Their expression softened just a fraction, a glimmer of something almost human crossing their features. However, before that happens, I will offer you something. I will let you have one wish. Just one. Spirit's breath caught in her throat, a mixture of hope and trepidation coursing through her veins. A wish. Just like that. Kelly nodded, their eyes alight, with a mix of mischief and seriousness. Indeed, a wish granted by a god is a powerful thing, but remember, I can't be letting people get their wishes all the time, even if I am a god. Spirit's heart raced at the prospect. A wish could change everything. Her grief, her mistake, the loss of Robin. It could even bring her friend back, but the air felt thick with tension. A nagging voice in her mind warned her to tread carefully. What's the catch? She asked, suspicion creeping into her voice. There's always a catch with you, Callie. Callie's eyes sparkled with amusement. You're clever. I'll give you that. But there's no catch, per se. Just one little condition. They leaned in slightly, lowering their heads as if sharing a grand secret. Whatever you wish for, you must understand, you won't be here to see it come to fruition. Spirit's stomach twisted at their words. What do you mean? His expression turned serious, their gaze piercing through her. You'll be gone, Spirit. No matter what you wish for, your time here is at an end. You return to the ether where I can harness your magic. That's what I truly wanted all along. You almost beat Blue, and I can't let such power go to waste. A cold dread washed over Spirit, and she fought to steady her breathing. You can't just take me away! He protested. Desperation creeping into her voice. I can't! Kelly raised her hand, silencing her. You can't fight what's inevitable. But you can decide how you want to leave as well. Do you want your friend back? Do you want to strike down Blue Fury? Or do you wish for something else? Choose wisely. As Kelly's words echoed in her mind, Spirit felt the weight of her choices pressing down on her. The promise of one wish glimmered like a beacon of hope, but the knowledge that her sacrifice would mean her end loomed over her like a dark cloud. What if I don't wish for anything? She asked, her voice trembling. What if I refuse? Kelly's expression shifted. The playful facade dropping to reveal a darker, more menacing countenance. Their eyes glimmered with a dangerous light. The emerald green turned into a stormy sea, flowing with malice. You see, this is new, he said, their voice laced with a twisted delight. I've never encountered someone so stubborn before. It's almost amusing. Spirit felt a chill run down her spine as Kelly continued, their presence growing more imposing. But if you don't want the wish, that's fine. Truthfully, I never cared for people's wishes anyway. That's just a waste of time. You're only a stepping stone for me. A means to an end. I'm done with you. Done with this world. This was merely a simulation for Blue. We do this almost yearly. Everyone is real, but the world isn't. My table's rightfully mine now, and then everyone will keep it away. I'll kill this world with you in it. The revelation struck Spirit like a physical blow. The weight of Kelly's words crashing over her. What do you mean, stimulation? What do you mean, a simulation? She stammered, her voice barely over a whisper. Above a whisper. Kelly's laughter echoed a sound that chilled her bone. Did you think you were fighting with something real? This cycle has been repeated countless times, Spirit. I allow you to believe you're making a difference. But the truth is more grim. I've let this charade go on longer than normal. But I'm finished playing nicely. The time for games is over. Spirit sighed race as the full weight of the situation sank in. She was just another pawn in Callisto's game, and everything she had fought for was nothing more than a cruel illusion. You can't do this, she shouted, desperation pouring out her throat. You can't just destroy everything. Callie stepped closer, the aura pulsing with more energy. Oh, but I can. And I will. You see, I feed off this world's just that. Each cycle only strengthens me. And I've grown tired of your little skirmishes with Blue. This time I will end it all. You'll join the others, lost, forgotten, and consumed. The darkness around them thickened, tendrils of shadows stretching like sinister fingers, wrapping around Spirit's limbs. They gripped her heart as she struggled against their hold, but the more she fought, the tighter they pulled. Stop! You can't! Spirit cried, rage and helplessness swallowing her. Within her. Kelly nearly tilted her head, amusement dancing in their eyes. Why fight against your fate, Spirit? Embrace it. You've already lost your friend once. And I'll lose everything. This world deserves to burn, and I will be the one to light the match. No! He shouted, the word reverberating through the night. I won't let you take anything from me. With every ounce of her remaining strength, Spirit reached deep within herself, tapping into the magic that once surged through her veins. It was a flickering flame against the overwhelming darkness, but it was a flame nonetheless. She focused on Marvin, the laughter they shared, the moments that defined their friendship. with every ounce of her remaining strength. But in her haste to conjure that powerful light, Spirit forgot one crucial detail: the price she paid for Kelly's information. That deal had come at a cost, and while Spirit believed she was summoning her full power, Kelly had been sadly siphoning the magic away. With every moment Spirit fought, Kelly was stealthily drawing strength from her, all while Spirit remained blissfully unaware, still reeling from Spirit's unexpected burst of energy. Kelly seized the opportunity. Their emerald eyes gleamed with predatory excitement as they flipped open their enchantment book, pages glowing with golden text that seemed to pulse with dark potential. "You think you can challenge a god?" they taunted, their voice thick with amusement. "How quaint." As Spirit charged forward, her heart racing with determination, Kelly began to whisper an incantation. Each word, a thread in the doomsday spell crafted from their insatiable thirst for chaos. The shadows around them twisted and swirled, dark tendrils dancing to the rhythm of Kelly's voice as they summoned a catastrophic explosion, designed to obliterate everything in its path. Suddenly, the world around them began to glitch. The park shimmered, reality fracturing like a cracked mirror, and Spirit felt the ground shift beneath them. The shadows contorted, forming monstrous shapes that lunged at her, but she pushed through, her resolve unwavering. "Not yet!" she shouted, willing herself to fight against the tide of darkness. But as she stood her ground, she felt it, the drain of her magic, the undeniable truth that she was no longer in control. "Too late, Spirit," Kelly said, a wicked grin stretching across their face. "The spell is cast. The end is come." Just as the words left their lips, the air around them shimmied with fierce energy, the countdown to the destruction echoing in Spirit's mind. She glanced around, panic flooding her as the once familiar park walked into a nightmarish landscape. "Hey! No!" she cried out, her heart racing as the enormity of the situation sunk in. "You can't do this!" But Kelly merely laughed, the sound reverberating through the chaos, tinged with triumph and amusement. "Watch as your world crumbles, and know that you brought this upon them." At that moment, the shadows surged forward, consuming everything. The landscape glitched and splintered as the explosive energy built to a devastating crescendo. Spirit could only watch in horror as the park, their sanctuary, was swallowed by the darkness. With a final blinding flash, the world imploded, the monstrous energy erupting into an inferno, engulfing Spirit and everything she held dear. The echoes of her screams were drowned in the explosion as the light consumed her, and in that fleeting instant, she felt the weight of her decisions crashing down. The world around her faded to black, and the last vestiges of her power dissipated like smoke in the wind. All the hopes, dreams, and friendships she had fought for were reduced to ash in the blink of an eye. And just like that, it was over. Kelly and Blue Fury sat perched on a jagged peak, their silhouettes dark against the dying light of a bruised sunset. Below them, chaos unfolded. A scene of absolute carnage as monstrous beasts surged through the streets, the guttural roars mingling with the frantic cries of those being haunted. The air was thick with smoke, swelling upwards like the dark evil spirits, rising from the flames of the burning city. Kelly's emerald eyes glinting with satisfaction and detachment, scanning the destruction as they meticulously record the events in her almost full notebook. The pages are illuminated by the fading glow of twilight, contain not just words but tapestries of the lives extinguished, hopes dashed and dreams turned to ash. The rhythmic scratch of their pen against the parchment was only the sound of the breaking of passive silence between them. Besides, Kelly, Blue Fury, lounged comfortably, oblivious to the chaos surrounding them. He nibbled on a triple chocolate cookie, the rich aroma mingling with the acrid scented smoke wafting up from the chaos below. Each bite was accompanied with a self-satisfied smack, starkly contrasting the devastation unfolding at their feet. The cookie crumbs fell into the abyss, swallowed by the dark void that yawned beneath them. The monsters rampaged, clawing through the remains of the once thriving cityscape, their grotesque forms silhouetted against the flickering flames. Buildings trembled like sandcastles under their relentless assaults. Their structures collapsed with thunderous roars that echoed off the mountains. Lava bubbled in the earth's crevice, casting an eerie glow on the chaos, illuminating the grotesque ballet of the destruction below. Fiery rivers snaked through the streets, devouring everything in their path, while creatures of nightmare feasted on the terror-stricken populace, leaving nothing but shadows in their wake. The juxtaposition of the serene mountaintop of the hellish landscape below created a surreal taboo that mocks the notion of morality. Kelly continued to write, the pen moving fluidly across the page, chronicling the grotesque beauty of the unfolding nightmare, as though it was a masterful work of art. As Blue Fury savored another bite of his cookie, his expression remained blissfully indifferent, utterly consumed by the momentary pleasure of indulgence. The cookie crunch resonated like a perverse anthem amid discordant symphony of fear and despair that reverberated through the air. "Look!" Blue Fury said, his eyes gleaming with mischief as he pointed to a monstrous figure dragging a screaming villager. "You know, I might enjoy watching this for a bit longer. After all, we are gods of this domain now, aren't we?" Kelly closed the notebook. The final page is filled with the fragmented thoughts, drifting from the past to present, and perhaps into the future. We may be gods, but even gods can fall. Round it up a Blue Fury laughed again. The sound of that echoed off the mountains. Blue Fury laughed again. The sound of that echoed off the mountainside. "I'm not worried about falling. I'm only worried about running out of cookies." "Oh man! I'll finish my cookies!" "Damn it! I spoke too soon!" Callie couldn't help but roll their eyes, their expression blending amusement and annoyance. The gods they were. But Blue Fury had a penchant for the absurd that often made the chaos around them feel almost trivial. Yet, in this moment, it felt fitting. A darkly comic relief amid the ruin they had orchestrated. The cacophony of screams and destruction continued below, the inferno casting flickering shadows across the rocky terrain. A creature with sinew limbs and jagged teeth spread its back, its roar drowning out the despair of its prey. And Blue Fury's laughter rang like a bell, bright and clear in the face of the door. "Do leave me alone," he mused, staring down at the mayhem. "It's like I've forgotten we're watching. Their oblivion makes this even more entertaining." Callie leaned back against the cold stone, feeling the vibrations of the chaos beneath them. Perhaps they don't need to learn. But fire is delicious, and necessary for the stories I'm crafting. The words dripped with a dark satisfaction, their eyes glinting in the firelight. As the last remains of daylight succumbed to the night, the stars twinkled above, indifferent to the suffering below. The firelight painted Callie's features in shades of gold, and shadow illuminating the depth of that enigmatic presence. They were a figure of authority in this realm, and the thrill of creation danced beneath their eyes, a flame that refused to extinguish. Meanwhile, Blue Fury reached into an invisible pocket, searching for crumbs. His face a mask of exaggerated dismay. "I can't believe I've run out! What's a god without snacks?" He glanced sideways to Callie with mischief flickering in his gaze. "Would they send me more cookies if I asked nicely?" Perhaps if you are more concerned with the world's destruction than your cravings, you'll be less disappointed. Kelly replied, amusement spreading through their voice. But your priorities are your own, I suppose. Look at them scramble! He said, a gleeful spark igniting in his eyes. It's like watching ants after you kick their hill. They don't stand a chance. The monsters continued their rampage, clawing and biting as flames lit. As flames lit up the night sky. The sight was a gruesome spectacle. Yet, it unfolded as art to Callie, who viewed the chaos as a canvas spotted with violent hues of suffering. Art is often born from suffering, Blue, Kelly mused, watching the chaos unfold with almost a reverent gaze. And this world has become an exquisite masterpiece. Yeah, I get it! But still, cookies! With fury, he replied, throwing up his hands in mock exasperation. He finally found a crumb, plucked it from the air, and popped it into his mouth, its expression becoming blissful. Kelly shook her head, bemused. One day, your indulgence will catch up with you. Maybe, but not today. He shot back, grinning, as he reclined against the rocky ledge. Let them scream, let the world burn. We've got the best seeds in the house. Kelly's laughter joined his, mingling with the sounds of horror below, echoing across the mountain range, and a haunting reminder of their power over life and death. As the night deepened, and the chaos continued, they sat together, two gods reveling in the dark theatre of their creation, content in their domain over the shattered remains of a world that had once thrived.